My name is Katrina. I am a 26-year-old woman living in New York, USA, and if I had to describe my life in a single sentence, I would say this: I started with very little, but I dreamed with everything I had. I was born and raised in a simple middle-class family. We were honest, hard-working people who always paid our bills on time, always managed to get through each month, and always lived within our means. But there was never extra. Never a cushion, never any comfort money, never anything left over to save, just enough to live, to survive, to get by. Growing up, I never felt deprived, but I was always aware of our limits. Every month felt like a tight balancing act, where one unexpected expense could create a ripple of stress through the entire household. It made me think differently about money from a very young age. I learned the value of budgeting before I even understood what budgeting meant. I understood sacrifice long before I understood opportunity. As I got older, I began to notice something important. Some people worked hard their whole lives and never became financially free. They worked paycheck to paycheck, just as my family did. And I realized that if I didn't take control of my own financial future, I might end up in the same cycle, a cycle of constant work, constant stress, and constant worry. I told myself that my life would be different. Not because I was special, but because I was determined. When I turned 18, most of my friends were enjoying the freedom that came with stepping into adulthood: late-night hangouts, weekend trips, shopping, experiments with independence. Meanwhile, I was searching for a job. Not because I wanted extra pocket money, but because I wanted peace of mind. I wanted to build a future where I wouldn't be ruled by monthly bills. I wanted savings. I wanted a foundation. I started working part-time while studying, and from the very first paycheck, I made a commitment to myself: I would save as much as possible. I wasn't perfect, but I was intentional. While my friends spent money on brunches, movies, trendy clothes, and last-minute weekend trips, I chose a different path. I skipped vacations. I passed on shopping sprees. I rarely went out for expensive meals. I wasn't stingy, I was focused. And every time I saw my savings grow even a little, I felt proud rather than deprived. People sometimes misunderstood my choices. Some thought I was too serious, too strict, or too cautious. But I didn't mind. I had a goal, and that goal was bigger than temporary pleasures. I didn't want to wake up at 40 feeling trapped by financial limitations. I wanted freedom, and I knew that freedom required early discipline. As I worked, I slowly began to understand that saving, by itself, was not enough. Saving was safe, yes. But savings alone would never bring financial freedom. Money sitting still doesn't grow, it only survives. I started reading financial newspapers, even when I barely understood the terminology. I forced myself to learn the language of money. I watched financial videos, market breakdowns, investment commentary, and anything that could help me develop financial literacy. Little by little, I learned about stocks, charts, fundamentals, risk, and market psychology. I became fascinated by how the market worked, how numbers moved money, how decisions shaped outcomes, how opportunity and risk were intertwined. I didn't have a mentor or formal training. I learned through curiosity, persistence, and a sincere desire to build a better future. The more I learned, the more I realized something powerful. Investing wasn't just for wealthy people, it was for people who wanted to become wealthy. And I wanted that more than anything. January 2021 will forever be etched into my life story. The world was buzzing about one thing: the GameStop short squeeze. It was everywhere, in news articles, social media posts, YouTube recommendations, even casual conversations. It was chaotic, dramatic, unpredictable, and unlike anything I had seen before in the financial world. By that time, after years of saving every extra dollar, I had about $10,000. This amount represented more than just money. It represented hundreds of hours of work. It represented sacrifices, choices, discipline, patience, and dreams. And suddenly, in the middle of all the noise surrounding GameStop, I felt something shift inside me. I knew this situation carried huge risks, but I also saw a rare opportunity. I analyzed the chart. I read the fundamentals. I studied the news. I tried to absorb every piece of information available. The more I looked at it, the more I realized something important. This was going to be my first real investment, and it might be my moment to take a bold step. But I was terrified. If I lost, all my years of hard work would disappear overnight. I had no backup plan. No second chance. This wasn't extra money. This was everything. Yet I asked myself a question that changed everything. If not now, then when? If not me, then who? One afternoon, with my heart pounding like never before, I opened my trading platform. My hands were shaking. I stared at the screen for several minutes, questioning whether I had the courage to take the leap. Then, with a deep breath, I invested the entire $10,000, using leverage. It was the biggest risk I had ever taken in my life. The moment I clicked confirm, I felt a strange mix of fear, excitement, and disbelief. A part of me felt empowered. Another part felt like I had just made the biggest mistake of my life. That evening, I couldn't stop thinking about my decision. I tried to distract myself, but the thought followed me everywhere. What if I made a terrible mistake? What if the market moved against me? What if everything I worked for vanished? That night, sleep barely visited me. The next morning, I felt both anxiety and anticipation as I waited for the market to open. Every second felt heavy. When the market finally opened, I refreshed my screen with shaking fingers. Then I saw it. My trade was showing around $7,000 in profit. I stared at the number, my heart racing. I couldn't believe it. The profit I saw in one morning was equal to months of work. I felt grateful, shocked, overwhelmed, all at the same time. I could have closed the trade right then, but something told me to wait. The momentum was strong. The situation was still unfolding. So I decided to hold. The next day, my profit grew to $15,000. My disbelief turned into amazement. I waited another day. And then another. My capital kept growing. $20,000. $30,000. $40,000. And finally, after a few more days, I saw a number on my screen that made my heart stop. $50,000 plus. In that moment, I felt something inside me shift forever. I had done it. I had taken a risk, believed in myself, and watched years of sacrifice multiply in front of my eyes. I closed the trade. I didn't want greed to take over. I wanted security, clarity, and pride. And as I stared at the final number, over $50,000, I felt an overwhelming wave of accomplishment. I had turned my first investment into a life-changing experience. That moment wasn't only about profit. It was about proof. Proof that my discipline mattered. Proof that my sacrifices were worth it. Proof that a girl from a simple middle-class family could change her life through focus and courage. But I didn't let the victory go to my head. I didn't rush into more trades. I didn't let excitement blind me. Instead, I did what I had always done. I kept learning. Because I understood something very clearly, one lucky moment doesn't create lasting success. Consistent learning does. Smart decisions do. Knowledge does. So I continued reading financial journals. I watched more market videos. I studied strategies, risk management, and patterns. I wasn't interested in quick money. I was interested in long-term growth. The GameStop trade was the beginning, not the peak. It wasn't the end of my story. It was the start of a new chapter. Chapter 8, Becoming the Investor I Dreamed of. Today, with the lessons I've learned and the capital I've built, I am moving forward with renewed confidence. I still work at improving myself every day. I still study the markets, still track financial news, still sharpen my understanding of trends and fundamentals. I am waiting patiently for my next major opportunity, but this time, I will be ready. Not nervous, not uncertain, not inexperienced, but prepared. Financial freedom is no longer a distant dream for me. It is no longer something I admire from afar. It is something I am actively building every single day. I understand now that financial freedom is not about getting rich overnight. It is about having the courage to take control of your future. It is about learning, planning, saving, taking risks thoughtfully, and believing in yourself even when others don't understand your journey. My story is not about luck. It is about discipline. It is about sacrifice. It is about believing that my life could be bigger than my circumstances. I am only 26, and my journey is far from over. I am just getting started. Chapter 9, my message to anyone starting out. When I look back at my younger self, the 18-year-old girl working late shifts and saying no to things other people her age enjoyed, I feel grateful for her discipline. I feel grateful that she chose long-term dreams over short-term comfort. If you're starting your financial journey, here is what I learned. Saving is powerful, even when the amounts are small. Discipline builds strength. Knowledge builds confidence. Risk is scary, but sometimes it is necessary. You don't need to be rich to start investing, you need to be willing to learn. Opportunities come to those who prepare for them. Most importantly, financial freedom is not a destination, it is a journey. My story is not perfect. I am still learning, still growing, still dreaming. But I am proud of how far I've come, and I believe the best chapters of my life are still ahead. Chapter 10, The Road Ahead. With more than $50,000 of capital now growing under my management, my goals are clearer than ever. I want to create a future where I am not just financially stable, but financially free, where money becomes a tool, not a worry. I am dedicated to lifelong learning. I am committed to making smart, informed decisions. I am patient. I am ambitious. I am confident. And above all, I am excited. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing. I will meet it with knowledge, courage, and determination. This is my journey to financial freedom. One that began with a simple dream, took shape through sacrifice, and transformed through courage. And this is only the beginning.
For more inspiring stories like this, please like the video and subscribe the Rich Trackers channel.